Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more turkey patterning, and today we've got another new load that we've never tested before, and it's one that I'm thinking we should see a really good pattern from, especially through this specific combination, which has proven itself with just about anything decent that we've run through it so far. So this combination should really work out and give us a nice pattern. But as for the shells I've got here today, big thank you to Keith and the guys over at Salt Creek for sending some of these shells out. I'm not paid by them or sponsored by them or partnered with them or anything like that, but they sent out some of these, the Salt Creek cold turkey shells. These ones are the 20 gauge 3-inch 1¼ ounce payload of TSS 9s, moving about 1100 feet per second, and this will be the first 20 gauge TSS load that we've tested from Salt Creek. Based on what we've seen out of them previously in 12 gauge and 410 and stuff, they make a pretty nice shell, so I expect nothing different out of this specific shell and through this combination today. And as for that setup we've got to run them through, I brought out the Stevens 301 20 gauge here, and I put this choke in here. This is a Cabela's Blackmaxx 575 constriction turkey choke, and if you've seen a lot of our 20 gauge turkey testing, then you probably already know that this Blackmaxx has been a surprising standout compared to a lot of the other turkey chokes we've tested, at least through this specific 301. For a $30 Cabela's off-the-shelf type of choke, it has given us some fantastic patterns that you really just cannot argue with. So I figured we'll start here with these Salt Creek shells and see what happens, because this should give us a very nice pattern. But as for the test today, everything is set up the same as usual. I've got the turkey target at 40 yards. I've got the chronograph so we can get our velocity out of the shell. So let's head over here and take this shot and just see what we can get out of some of the 20 gauge TSS shells from Salt Creek when we put them through this 301 and Blackmaxx 575. Thinking we should see a really nice pattern, but let's head over here and take the shot and see what kind of results we get. Okay, so that shell gave us 1150 through the chrono. The boss claim is 1100, so we are just a touch above that, but I think this is still well within the realm of reason for these shells. 1150 is perfectly fine, all things considered here. So we're looking just fine up here as far as velocity goes, but what kind of a pattern did they give us down at 40 yards? Let's go check it out and see what we got. Alright, so now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and this is what we got. And I think it's pretty clear and obvious that we absolutely have a dead turkey here, because that core is pretty devastating, to put it lightly. Now, the turkey paper itself didn't really flake off all that cleanly, so I'll let you guys get a nice close-up view here, because it is just coated with shot all across that entire paper there. That is a nasty swarm of pellets flying down range. There's no question about that. Now, I do think the overall pattern might have been just a touch off to the right, but as you can see, I don't think it really made much of a difference at all with this pattern. And right off the bat, that's a pattern that I don't think we can really argue with too much. Now, what I am seeing, these are TSS 9s, and the smaller shot sizes do tend to prefer a little bit tighter of a choke, and with that Blackmaxx being a 575, it's definitely not super far down there as far as constrictions go in a 20 gauge. So with the outside edges, they are a little bit more open around the very edges of the pattern here, but it's not what I would call just blown out or scattered all over the place. It's just a sign that I think we can go down in constriction a little bit into the 565 to 570 range and get a much more hot condensed pattern than even this is. But still, this is not a terrible pattern in the slightest. If you like a little bit more wiggle room, a little more leeway, you're going to be taking 20, 25, 30 yard shots and want that little more breathing room, that's about perfect right there for you. But I think with the tighter choke, we can tune that in just a little bit more around the edges still and get an even hotter pattern for the guys that really like those screaming type patterns. Now, of course, we did have one or two flyers. There's mainly one down there at the very bottom edge and maybe one or two of those over there on the left, which is not a huge deal in the grand scheme of things. I don't think we can really make too much of an argument against that pattern. And the core is super nice and even. I wish this turkey paper flaked off a little bit nicer, but if you guys can tell that or not, it is a beautifully even core area there. So we are absolutely on the right track with these shells, and this combination definitely did not disappoint. But I'm really looking forward to seeing what these can do with a little bit more constriction, because this is a fantastic pattern as it is, but I think it can get a little bit better than that too, mainly around those edges. I think we can condense those edges just a little bit with the right choke. So definitely a very nice looking pattern, and we still have a little bit more wiggle room to go with these as well. So definitely not a disappointment at all here today. Okay, and here's the wad from that shell, and as you can see, it looks pretty well perfect. Definitely nothing weird going on, and there's no pellets stuck down in the bottom here, which has been an issue with a lot of the off-the-shelf TSS loads here recently. Now, I wouldn't expect anything different from a Salt Creek shell, but that is definitely something to watch with some of these shells here recently, but this one did just fine. And I am not a wad expert by any means as far as just immediately recognizing what brand or model they are or whatever, but this wad reminds me a lot of the 12 gauge low bore contact wads that we saw in like some of the Kent turkey shells. And if it is a 20 gauge version of that, then we know these wads do extremely well. So if this is what it is, which it looks very similar, if it's not one, it is designed very similar at least to it, this wad should continue to perform very, very nicely. So as for the wad, looks perfectly fine, and I'm definitely curious to see how it does through some other chokes and stuff and see if it holds up, because I have a feeling it's going to do pretty well. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about those results right there? That core area is pretty devastating. It's beautifully even, although the turkey paper itself flaking off didn't really give us a good picture of what it actually looked like, probably through the camera. But I can tell you it is beautifully even on that turkey paper. And overall, that is a very, very nice, solid turkey hunt pattern. There's no question about that. You could take that out to 40, 45 yards all day long, easily. And I think it's another pattern where you would probably run out of energy before you would run out of actual pattern capability. So we can't argue too much with those results, but I think we can still tune them in just a little bit more with the right choke constriction. If we drop it down to a 570 or maybe the Longbeard 568 choke that we've got, I think those edges of that pattern are going to tune in a little bit tighter than that and really give us a super nice circular, even, condensed turkey pattern. So although we are not at all off to a bad start here, there's no question about that. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what they can do with just that little bit more constriction as well, which I think is going to be the ticket for these shells. But if this is the combination you had, it would absolutely be a turkey hunter all day long. But as always, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of the 20 gauge Salt Creek TSS shells? And if so, what kind of results have you seen? Is there another choke that you might want to see these shells run through? And would you hunt with that pattern, or would you want it tuned in just a little bit tighter than that? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.